Right, this is again another 3 days later. I just never seem to get time to do this job. I got the shield on, half-assed, put a bit of paint on there, that's going to be nice and fine. I know a lot of people don't like the shields, but well, I had it, I wanted to use it up anyway. I'm going to put new bolts in it, because if you can remember, I had well, not new ones, used ones, because I didn't expect to do this job. And what happened was I had to cut the heads off the bolts because I couldn't get them out. Also, these were rounded, so I managed to find some in the container that were salvage, which isn't too bad. But one of my problems that I didn't sort of realise is, well, I did realise, that there is a master bolt in here. It's got a shoulder that's wider than all the rest, and that's supposed to, I don't know, put your camber, I don't know, angle. It's supposed to set the angle correct of your swivel. Well, I don't know, because whenever I've done swivels before, I always keep the bolts in a set and then just put them back in again. And well, I never drew much of I didn't pay much attention to it, to be honest, because it's so minimal that you just don't know if it's going to be any use. So what am I rambling on about? Well, there's a bolt here that I managed to find, and that is 9.73 millimeters. Now these bolts here are supposed to have the shoulder on 9.82 millimeters. Not a great deal of difference really. What's this one here? Now you see this one here, 10.43. so that's the master bolt. Ah! And in fact, I've actually went through all the bolts and measured them up, and I think I've got about 3 or 4 master bolts, so I don't know how that's going to work out, but we're going to find out in a minute when we plug this in. Well, not plug it in, but throw it in. So hopefully I can get this out for Christmas. Mind you, COVID will be over by the time I get this finished. So I'm just going to grease the gasket up. A lot of people put sealer on or silicone or whatever you want to do. I don't know. I just put grease on. The grease seems to soften up the paper. When I was an apprentice fitter, when we, at the chemical place, when we were allowed to do anything, we used to change big pipe steam flanges, you know, 10, 12 inch, you know, flanges. And the old fitters there, they used to get the gaskets, so obviously there were asbestos gaskets, good old asbestos, a lot thicker, a lot bigger and heavier. And in order for them to get them to be more pliable so they'd seal down, they'd just throw them in a puddle of water, because it's always raining in England, isn't it? So they threw them in a puddle and left them for an hour or so, then put them on, and they never used to have a leak. Didn't bother with anything fancy, so we're going to plug that on in the right place. We're going to put some grease, John Travolta would be pleased about that, on this thing, and then we're going to move all operations to finally getting this on the car. Car will be I think car thinks it's gone to heaven, it's been there so long on the lift. Right, here we are. I've got the bolts started. Invaluable little tool is one of these ratcheting 14mm keys. I've had this one for years, it's brilliant for getting these off. Now the thing is, what you've got to remember, we've done these time and time again, but don't tighten the bolts down all at the same time, you know, like going in a ring. Do it progressively, work in a diagonal, just do a couple of clicks, because you'll find out if you pull it tight, you won't be able to get your spanner in, right? So that's what we're going to do, just pull the ball off the bottom, pull your balls. Oh dear, I'll get me band. And just do a few turns. Now remember, we've cleaned all the threads with Loctite, with the brake cleaner, and put some Loctite on them. No, we don't just do them dry. And make sure they're inside this hub here, this flange, that's nice and oil free. We can start to get our spanner in all of them now. Yeah, they're a bad. These multi, point bolts are great until they go rusty, and then they're a pig to get out. And the thing is, you can't really get into them without cutting them off. Bit of a bummer really, isn't it? It's probably something to do with Brexit. So I'll tighten these up and then we'll get back. Right, just like you, I have no special socket spanners or torque wrenches to do these bolts. We're going to do the way I've been doing it for donkey's years. Just clinch 2 spanners together and pull them down. And just do it progressively. I know it's a bit of a mess about, but you can see the grease start to squirt out of here. Do it diagonally opposite. It's usually enough. I mean, if you're a big lad, you might put a bit more torque on it than me. There we go. But it won't come off, and of course the Loctite will hold it on anyway. I'll get these tightened down. Right, the next thing we're going to do is put the shaft in. This CV is in beautiful condition. It's already greased up. We're going to put it in. Straighten that up. These are tricky to do. So push down and turn, and it should go in. Should. Hey! There we go. I think I've done it before, haven't I? Right, so the next thing, flange. 1 flange. Grease on the paper gasket, grease in your bearing, work it round before you put it in. Now there is an oil seal behind this bearing. It's a bitch to get out. Am I changing it? No. Why? Because at this other end here, this was dry as a bone, and there's a bearing support in this shaft here, so there was no migration of oil or grease through here. So I'm not changing it because I haven't got the parts, and you can go to endless trouble of changing everything, but sometimes if it's okay, well, you have my blessing to use it again. Now I tend to put these on with the flat at the top, you know, where you put your key. Put it at the top, just like that. Let's put a little bolt in while I get the other bits ready. Again, I'm using new bolts on here because the old heads were so rounded off, you know, it was really bad. Now this shield, some people say it's a locking plate. I don't think it is. It's a plate to stop dirt getting in the back of the brake drum, the brake rotor disc. I don't know, it's too early. Tell you why? Well, let me show you why. Now I'm not going to clean the bearings out. These are all lovely and well greased and there was no problem with them. But that ring here goes in here and it stops the dirt accumulating. Now, does it work? I'm not really sure. If you're a heavy off-roader, then you could actually get wet mud trapped behind here. But the idea is to stop a majority of the dirt getting behind here and acting like a balance weight, because it's all attached to your wheel and things like this. So if you get a heavy spot of mud in here, you could get quite a bit of vibration. So that's why we're putting it on. So I'm going to bolt that on, put this down before it falls on my foot, and we'll see the next bit. Oh. Yeah, I was really pleased with the bearings. See, if you do wheel bearings right, clean them out, put new bearings in, make sure they're all right. Do it once and they'll last for years and years and years. Sometimes they need a bit of adjustment after being settled down. But I think when I did this truck, I put a disco, like I mentioned before, I put a disco 1 axle on this, and I stripped the brakes down, you know, I stripped the calipers down, stripped the hubs down, but I didn't strip the CVs down. I just had a quick look inside and put new grease in. But they seem to be all right. So the bearings are all right, but they've just settled down a bit over the last, you know, year or whatever. Whenever I put this axle in, I can't remember. But it must have been 5 years. Yeah, I think it was about 5 years. So they haven't come up too bad. Right, next thing, 65 Newton meters, diagonally opposite. I've done some of these once before. Tighten them down. These are the things that hold your wheel on, right? Don't forget that. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just your wheel nuts. It isn't. It's the hubs, it's the flanges. Everything holds your wheel on. So while we're here, we can do a little demonstration as to why it's important. We've done this before, but somebody might have missed it. Why it's important to have the shims at the correct length for these. Now, I'm getting desperately short of my tools. I haven't got time to make any. These little things here, the screws in the end of your shaft, to pull this backwards and forwards. See what I mean? Because you've got to pull it forward to put shims on. Now, so big deal. What are you on about, Mike? Well, look, you can see this, and look, if we pull that out, we've got full range on our. That's hitting the stop, but we've got full range of movement. Now, watch what happens when I push it in. That. So if I take it out, we get that much more. See what I mean? What it does is it grinds in the back. The CV will grind in the back of the hub, so you've got to pull it forwards onto the bearing. Really important. So the next thing, we'll take that out for now. Put it in your pocket so you don't lose it. We're going to put the hub assembly and the brake on. Right, I'm just going to plonk this on. Put a bit of grease on the spigot there where the bearing goes. We're going to slide this on. I'll put a bit more on. I'll pinch a bit off here. Look. Yeah. Maybe you're happy. Oh, I'll go with my washer. Put that there. Well, this should go straight on. Like that. Now we pick up the bit off the floor that's picked up all the dust. If bits do fall on the floor, which they invariably do here, and you've got grease on, just make sure you wipe it off and clean it. Don't get any contaminants off the floor, dirt and dust and rubbish. Now I'm going to put that on, without that piece of paper. And we get the nut. I was just looking around where the other one is. There we go. Now there's lots of different techniques to put these on. Some people use dial gauges. I don't bother, I just get the socket, turn it till the hand slips on the socket, and that's usually enough. We turn it around a few times to settle the bearings down, but also most importantly, because we've just put a new shield on here, we want to make sure it's not catching, because otherwise we can bend it, and that's just about right. So now we've got some grease on the locking tab. I always put new locking tabs on. I don't trust the old ones. There's a nut. Oh, I've forgotten what the bloody torque was for that nut. I'm going to go and have a look at my book. So after a bit of research I found out it's 60 Newton meters. A lot of people do them with a hammer and chisel. Not here. See, it doesn't need all that much, you know. That's it. That's all it's going to get. People go overboard and tighten these things up, but really all you're doing is putting two locking nuts together. You're not stopping anything come off. That feels really nice. Now I know Land Rover said do it with a dial gauge, but I've been doing it like that for like 20 odd years. It seems to work alright, so I haven't lost a patient yet. Right, next thing. Bend the lock washer over. Right, see if I can see that. My light's getting dim. Got a good light here, but it eats batteries. That's nice. And then we bring one at the opposite side. You know, I was going to do it twice over. Wait a minute. Now if you just tap very lightly, you'll easily find out where the flat is. There we go. One hub on, that'll be on for a long time. Next, I'm going to get a gasket. I'm going to get the flange. Where is the flange? Flange is here, it's all well greased up. Get rid of that gasket, we'll put a new one on. Does it do anything? Nah, not really. But I'm going to give this a shot of brake cleaner in the holes. Now a little top tip. Oh, we haven't done that for a while. Let's do a top tip. Squirt it in the bottom, not in the top. Because if you go around and squirt it like that, get all that poo out. You don't want to squirt brake cleaner into your nice grease. These used to come with a little tube on, they don't seem to come there now. And it has a double action effect of cleaning your floor up at the same time. I'm going to change the battery on this lamp, clean off the grease. Might just blow those out, I think. Right, one coffin fit over. What we're going to do now is put that gasket back on. Like I say, there's plenty of grease in there, it's alright, I'm not going to change that. It's not dirty, it's not contaminated. Like I say, this truck does nothing. In 7 years I've driven this, I've got 700 hours. I put an hours meter on just to be different and see how many hours I've done, but it certainly isn't many hours. 700 hours. Imagine that, 700 hours in the Land Rover. And I don't get Order of Canada. Right, we'll put the bolts in. These don't have lock washers on. Just Loctite, and that's why it's important to put the Loctite on. And make sure it's dry. I say Loctite, this is Permatex Thread Locker. I do apologise to Mr. Loctite. It's the same sort of stuff. Right. That's that. Now, where's my gun? I'm going to torque these down, but I'll just sort of save a bit of time by putting a gun on and just taking down a bit evenly. It's just a pity these guns don't come with a different setting, so you're not powering things on. If you're careful with the trigger, you can do great things, as I've been told. Right, I'll find out the torques for these. 65 Newton meters for these bad boys. Wonder if I can just tighten them down using my wrench here. I don't think so. I don't know if this is going to go. Oh yeah. I think I'll get these done and then I'll come back. Right, next bit. Put these, God, my pocket's full of dust. See how far it comes out? Now usually the original shims are good because we've not changed anything in the hub. Should be the same, except I put my where have they gone? the circuit pliers. I have to have a look for them. Here they be. They're on the top of the wing. Now, I want to make sure that clip is on. You know. There we go. And you shouldn't have any, or a couple of thousandths of an inch play on there. That's it. That's all she's getting. Put the cap on. That's that done. Next thing, what time is it now? Oh, it's nearly dinner time. I'm going to have a quick bite of something to eat. Then we'll put the caliper on, bleed the brake out, put it back on, and then that's done.